Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. We are live on the Sportskeeda YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for the Sportskeeda Wrestling AEW Revolution 2022 preview and predictions. I am joined by an esteemed colleague, my main man over in the UK. He does the reviews of all British wrestling because British wrestling isn't dead just yet. And he is a man who does a lot of podcasting about the world of professional wrestling over on the Gravel Lab podcast. He is Richard Benson, better known as Benno. What's going on, brother?
SB3, great to chat to you again, man. It's become a tradition, build up to these AEW pay-views. We always get together, but it's cool to be here on Sportskeeda for the first time to chat with you on this, happy ROH day. Is that what it is? Is that what we're celebrating today? Me and you? It's
absolutely post Ring of Honor day. Like Sportskeeda Wrestling didn't realize, but they got the perfect people to talk about Tony Khan buying AEW. We're gonna react to that news as well. As well as break down the AEW Revolution card for this Sunday, March 6th. I'm like Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho made that mistake on Dynamite last week. But March 6th, this Sunday on pay-per-view, Fight TV, all that BR Live, all that good stuff. We're going to break down the card, but we want to hear from all of you. We want to hear your predictions for the card, what you think about Tony Khan buying AEW's president, Tony Khan buying ROH, in the live chat. And of course, your super chat donations are encouraged and appreciated. It helps the channel grow so much, and we always like that. And remember to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you are new to the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel. We do preview and predictions for all WWE and AEW pay-per-views here on Sportskeeda Wrestling. So enjoy it and hit that bell to stay notified. But yes, Benno, we are a couple of days from AEW Revolution, but we are just a few hours since Tony Khan kicked off AEW Dynamite, and he laid it out. His huge announcement was that he was buying an entire promotion, as it says in the press release, the most prestigious independent wrestling promotion in the world today. Ring of Honor has been purchased by Tony Khan. What was your reaction to it? And I should also note, you are a man that predicted this like a month ago.
I think it was just wishful thinking, man. I kind of thought, like, if it was me or you, SP3, and we had Tony Khan's money, what would we do with it? We'd buy ROH. Of course we would. we'd buy that back catalogue, I'm still waiting for Tony to get in touch. Like, I've got some of the ROH library behind me. I've got a rare copy of Showtown in Motown here. They're fantastic. They're not naked. It's just a misprint, but it's a rare copy.
Nice. Some of those covers from way back, they don't know, Benno. Like, I had my first Ring of Honor DVD, I believe, was Glory by Honor, and yeah, like a lot of those graphics are over their waist. So it does look like this is like another type of DVD, but yes.
Yep. And some of those titles as well, like it's just those random things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to AEW Supercard of Honor and, then to steal some of those great titles from back in the day, Survival of the Fittest, all of that. But yeah, I've not heard from Tony yet. He hasn't got in touch to collect my library, but yeah, for me, it's a dream come true, really, because the big thing about ROH as a long-time ROH fan is, the modern ROH, I don't think ever really paid a huge amount of time to its own history, didn't really monetize it very well, the back catalogue. And the dream was always somebody would come along and do something with it. So, I'm glad it's not WWE. I'm glad it's Tony and it's AEW. He's one of us. He was there on those ROH message boards back in the day, man. He was he was definitely getting involved with some of the Flame Wars with Gabe back in the day. But yeah, he's the right man for it. And yeah, I think for me, I was maybe just expecting that, the tape library, maybe Sinclair carry on running Ring of Honor independently, or maybe Tony was just after the tape library for his potential streaming service going forward. But the fact that he's bought the whole company wholesale, it's massively interesting. And yeah, it looks like from reports that it's going to continue running in some form, whether it be developmental for AEW or, something akin to that. But yeah, I think that's great news. And yeah, it saves, a big part of my life and your life, Ring of Honor, from, flaming out this year. It's great news, I think, for wrestling in general.
I have like a whole like locker case, like one of those old like NBA 2K locker cases, and all it has is like Ring of Honor DVDs from like 2005 through like 2016. I saw
Proper
one
stuff.
earlier today of 2016, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole at Super Card of Honor. So yeah, like it's a lot of history. It's now going to be readily available. You know, people complain about BR Live, people complain about Peacock with wrestling fans. You don't know the struggle that is Honor Club. So like at the very least, Tony can use that for now, as far as like maybe he will like put All In available on Honor Club, because that's the most important thing. That's a big thing for me, because that's the origin story of AEW. I was there live in Chicago, September 2018, and how important that was to the independent wrestling world, to the world outside of WWE, that opened the eyes of a lot of fans, and of course Tony Khan, to a world that can be as big as WWE, but not have the WWE name connected to it. But speaking of names, the one thing I did want to ask you about this, Benno, is what do you think is going to be the name? Is Tony going to still make it Ring of Honor ROH, or is he gonna like rename it? Like I think it was Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio talked about like how the AEW name is actually worth more than the ROH name. So if they're gonna be doing like independent shows, you have to have the AEW name connected to it in some way. I think that maybe they should go with AEW Ring of Honor, something along that line. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's easy for, I was listening to Dave this morning, and it is easy for the likes of me and you to overvalue, what ROH means, in the overall wrestling sphere and what it means as a brand. And it's obviously very near and dear to our hearts. But yeah, Dave is right. AEW as a brand probably sells more tickets than Ring of Honor. Not even probably, definitely, based on recent evidence the last couple of years. But they've spent a lot of money on this, and I think, yes, some of that money is worthwhile because you get the streaming library, but I think a big part of it's going to be they wanted this branding, whether Tony uses it for merchandising, for t-shirts and could sell replica belts like the one behind me and lean into that kind of history. I think he's going to want more of his money back than just purely from the tape library. So yeah, Dave makes a good point about that, but I think there is also a value in having something separate to AEW. Like, we always talk about how there maybe isn't enough hours in the day to include all of the talent that AEW have on their main shows and Dynamite and Rampage. And at that, and then you're like, well, should Dynamite be 3 hours then? Well, none of us want that. Should Rampage be 2 hours? None of us want that.
Not at 10.
But a way of doing it and keeping things maybe fenced off and a little bit separate and their own thing is by branding it, something unique. And I think Ring of Honor, the IP is right there for them to use. So yeah, I think that's probably the smart play.
Yeah, it's very smart to use it as a developmental. Cassidy Haynes of BodySlam.net said that's kind of the plan moving forward. And I feel like there's going to be some fans that feel like this is not a big deal, but you're not really looking at the chessboard, because this is a big chess move to make. This is not this is not checkmate. But he's in position to checkmate this stuff as far as AEW acquiring a major streaming deal. I think this is a big move in that direction.
Yeah, and to be honest, just from listening to Chris Harrington was on with on WrestleNomics, his old show, and just listening to him and just reading between the lines, it feels like there might be something in that HBO Max deal in the future for AEW. I feel like there's a second part to this announcement that maybe they couldn't get out in time for yesterday, just with the way Tony's built it up. I understand it, if you're not a dyed-in-the-wool ROH fan like us, maybe this doesn't feel like, the big deal that Tony built it up for. But you're right, at the end of the day, this is the number 2 US company buying out another, top 5 company at the very least. What are they? The number 3, the number 4 in the US at the very least. So that's huge, and that is game changing. That does change, the landscape of wrestling in general. But I would say it feels like this is part 1 of a story, and part 2 is, do they sweep up the PWG library, with those connections to the books? Do they sweep up the TNA library?
You don't understand. Some people don't understand. Being an independent wrestling fan, like PWG was like I'm from Harlem. That was like finding the first crack rock. Like finding a PWG DVD out here in these streets Man, that's
Yeah.
damn, man, that's like finding the best rap album, the best mid coat, whatever your best is. A PWG DVD for independent wrestling fans, that was like finding a
Mm.
gold mine. Like I remember my reaction when Ring of Honor events started selling the PWG DVD. I was like, oh, we got it, we got
I
a way
remember when
to
they did that.
purchase the. Because I'm from the East Coast, so being like that's West Coast. I didn't realistically see myself going out there to watch the show. And anytime I was on
Yeah.
the West Coast, didn't work out that PWG had a show. So yeah, like that was like a gold mine. So if they get that, I feel like that's
Wow.
even bigger in establishing, yeah, they are
Yeah.
going to a major streaming service. I mean, HBO Max makes a whole lot of sense. And it
Mm.
would, they just had the news yesterday that they signed a major deal with like US Soccer, and then they had
Mm.
the two most viewed TV shows of this year so far in Peacemaker and Euphoria. So it's a great time if AEW is in talks with HBO Max.
Definitely, and I think we've lived in a period of time where WWE has owned the wrestling business and the history of the wrestling business. WCW's tapes, ECW's tapes, all of the territories. It's pretty much in their hands. I love this idea that Tony Khan, as a modern wrestling fan, is going to take that alternate history. So if he gets PWG, if he possibly even gets the TNA library, sweeps up like an IWA Mid South, even those types of libraries, he can tell the alternate story of what wrestling has been these last 20 years. And think that, Peter, don't get me wrong, AEW's got a lot of their own great footage from these last few years and they're hammering out content at a crazy pace. But to have those extra libraries and to be able to tell that story of the business, I think that's invaluable. And I think that's the lead reason why this deal has happened.
Yeah, honestly, I think we are based on how both companies are having a trajectory. I think that AEW should wait out if they want to make like a CM Punk, a Bryan Danielson, like major DVD. The way that Nick Khan and WWE is working, I think it's not out the realm of possibility that Tony could work a deal with Nick Khan just to purchase CM Punk and Bryan Danielson footage from WWE in like 5 or 6 years. I think that this will be a realistic conversation.
Yeah, imagine the documentaries. Just imagine the footage you could put together like that, a full career, of a Punk or a Brian and those types of guys. Yeah, it's hugely, hugely exciting. And yeah, it's just cool that somebody like Tony Khan, who's very much one of us, is the one, spearheading this type of stuff. It's great to kind of have someone maybe taking a bit of the power back for the likes of us.
Absolutely. We got a couple of comments here in the live chat. Keep it coming in the live chat. We want to hear your predictions for AEW Revolution 2022 as we break down the card. We got Kevin Kellum from Top Story saying AEW presents Ring of Honor. That is a good alternative as well. He also tells you, share the link if you are watching, and remember to drop that thumbs up. Garrett saying AEW, the Man City of wrestling.
Wow. Buying their way to the top, is that what it is?
Absolutely. He also says the invasion storyline springs to mind. I saw a lot of people questioning if that might happen. Maybe that's a big angle for a Revolution. Tony did also say in several interviews, new storylines will begin at Revolution. But let's get into it. First up, Benno, let's go very quickly through the buy-in. The buy-in matches were announced last night on AEW Dynamite, so I don't even have great quality pictures here, as you're gonna have Layla Hirsch versus Chris Statlander in one of the buy-in matches. Who do you got winning this one, Benno?
I think Layla. I think they're definitely leaning into this heel run. The promo they did on Dynamite with just not wanting the camera to even be there. Hopefully that turns into a meme at some point. I love that. I want to see her in Team Taz. Like, I know everyone's said that before, but she'd be so perfect. You don't get enough of the women's wrestlers in AEW in stables. It is kind of a weird thing where it's mostly done with the men. She'd be perfect for that. I'd love to get like a proper push going for Layla. So yeah, I'd go with Layla for that one.
I would even say if Bryan Danielson is about to start a group, I would love to see Layla in there with
Maybe even
Danielson
better, yeah.
and Daniel Garcia and Lee Moriarty, something like that. But I do agree. I think this is a angle or a feud kind of built to bring up Layla Hirsch, so I could see her getting the victory here. And they've been doing a good job as far as like on Dark and little vignettes on Rampage and Dynamite to build this matchup. So it has a little bit of build up to them, but it is not the buy-in main event, because that honor goes to Hawk Hooker, stand up. The Hook Man will be on his first buy-in as he will go one-on-one with QT Marshall. This has been building for a while. Marshall was the trainer of Hook, and he's even sent a couple of his trainees out to verse Hook, which Hook has destroyed. He is undefeated. I think this is obvious who's gonna win. Hooker, stand up. Hook's getting the win. Let's see if we got any comments here. We got John Elite who says Hirsch is going to get the victory on the buy-in. We also got John Elite who says Hook should get the win on the buy-in as well. D Star who says that Tony announcement was underwhelming for me, and that's totally fine. That honestly, I like the way you frame that comment, because there's a lot of people that would just go on like social media in comments like on this video and just say that Tony announcement was underwhelming, which is a false statement because it's not underwhelming to a lot of different people. What you said is a fact. It was underwhelming for me. For you, it was underwhelming. And I totally understand that if you're not a Ring of Honor fan, you're not a fan of independent wrestling. If AEW is like your first opening to non-WWE wrestling, I could totally understand if this was underwhelming.
Yeah, totally. I think that's fair, and yeah. But like I say, I think for anyone who maybe it doesn't mean much to them personally, we'll see what happens business wise and what it means for the wider industry. But no, that's fair.
Absolutely.
But yeah, on the match itself, like, how can I go against Hook? Imagine I sat here and tried to convince you that I'm a QT Marshall guy and I thought he was going to go over. I have loved the build to this one. Like, it's been great. And I think it's perfect for the pre-show as well, because it's a stacked main card that we're going to get into. And, you want Hook to build his way up. He's doing a lot of these Rampage matches. He's got his own little slot. This is perfect for him. Smashes through QT Marshall in a few minutes. And yeah, we continue the rise of Hook to main event status, which I'm sure is coming soon.
And plus, it's on YouTube. It's available to more people are going to have the opportunity to see this match. This is a good showcase for Hook on the buy-in. And I like the fact, because I was worried because we had a 9-match card that one of the matches would be bumped to the buy-in. And I thought it would be one of the women's matches, but we got a third women's match on this card overall, which is saying a lot for where AEW is right now and where they've been in the past.
Yeah, means they're listening, which is good, and that is like something that's been a genuine criticism, and sometimes maybe a not so genuine criticism of AEW when maybe the talent hasn't been there to really focus on the women's division. But yeah, with the amount of very good female wrestlers they've got in the company now, like, and the fact they've got the 2 different belts, yeah, you do want to see more of this.
Speaking of the 2 different belts, on the main card, we got Jade Cargill defending the TBS championship against Ty Conti. She made the challenge last week on AEW Dynamite, the open challenge to anyone to first the TBS champion, and Ty Conti answered the challenge. She was laid out after being kissed on the forehead with a pump kick, and then Jade even talked some trash last night on Dynamite. Who you got in this one, Jade versus Ty?
Yeah, I think Jade. I think that Ty's probably the best possible kind of contender for Jade at this point. And, I think they've been trying to give Jade more time for her matches on Dynamite and Rampage to mix results. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think Jade is someone who really you want to see not be full Goldberg and have 30-second matches, but you want them to be relatively brief. You want it to look dominant. I don't think Ty Conti loses much from, being beaten decisive fashion by Jade. So I want to see that rather than them try and go 15 minutes. I think that's the better move, and you can, recuperate Ty Conti later.
Absolutely. That makes sense to me. I am all for Jade Cargill. I am such a big fan of her. I say the money match, since we know what the main event is going to be now for this show, the money match for the AEW women's division, the money match that can main event a pay-per-view is Jade Cargill as the undefeated TBS champion going for the AEW women's world title. I think that her undefeated streak continues here and she beats Ty. But I think this is going to be one of her better matches, because slowly but surely, I won't lie, her matches with Ruby Soho and Thunder Rosa I felt were underwhelming, were a little bit disappointing. Thunder Rosa was better than the Ruby Soho one. The Ruby Soho one was very disappointing for me. But ever since then, the Anna Jay match, the match with the bunny, she's really been delivering and improving in my eyes.
Yeah, that's it. And it's, you got to remember how young she is to the wrestling business. She's someone who's, had an entire different life in another career. And now she's trying out wrestling. And yeah, you're going to need time. But also she's hot as anything, can, in the company, really. Like, she's on fire right now. She's someone who the crowds are getting behind, and someone who you want to push, and someone who you want to make dominant, and you want to feature on your shows. But there's a way to do that, I think, while protecting the fact that she is still new to the business. And yeah, taking those chances maybe on those longer matches when you're in with the right wrestler, and then when you're not, protecting those weaknesses, Paul Heyman style. That's what you want to do: accentuate the strengths and hide those weaknesses.
Absolutely, and they're doing a good job with that with Jade Cargill. We want to hear your predictions on that match as well as this one, which may be the most craziest match on this card, as you got 3 hosses and 3 little guys to get thrown around. You're gonna see Keith Lee, Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, Ricky Starks, Orange Cassidy, and the winner of Ethan Page versus Christian Cage on Rampage in a 6-man Face of the Revolution ladder match. The winner gets a shot at the TNT Championship. Who do you think is going to be the number 1 contender after Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, first up, I assume Christian's going to be in the match because, I mean, I'd forgotten he could wrestle. It's been a while, hasn't it? We haven't seen much of him. And he's one of those toys Tony gets in. He hires them, puts them in his toy box, and then forgets to get them out again for a few months. I think that's
he's like
a recurring thing.
He's like a toy collector, and he got a real vintage toy. And he was like, you know what? He got very excited with it, maybe too excited for some people, to the point he put him in the main event. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to put him right here where he's helping the other toys. Yeah. But he's just not really, I'm not really playing with him as much. So I'm glad Christian's going to have a match. And I do agree. I think he's going to be in this match because he's an expert at laying out ladder matches.
Exactly, yeah, and it writes itself having him in this thing. There was a time where I thought maybe Jeff Hardy would be in this thing as well, but I don't think his contract's up till Wednesday, is it? So don't think that's happening now. But as far as the people that are left, like, I love the fact that they've stacked this with big lads, like you said there. The fact that Keith Lee, Powerhouse, Hobbs, and Wardlow all went through. Have all looked dominant on TV the last few weeks. I think we're going to see a lot of them. The other lads in the match are going to be taking a lot of bumps. I think that's going to be the thing. Orange Cassidy is going to get launched around. Poor Ricky Starks is probably going to get launched around, and I think the big lads are going to be launching each other around as well. So I'm hyped for that. But if you're bringing in Keith Lee, he's another one. He came in, he had the big debut. Obviously, he had his wedding and honeymoon and all that stuff, which is why he's not been featured on TV, at least until this week. But you need to get going with Keith Lee, capitalize on that momentum. And I can't see any other results other than, him winning this thing and as him pushing on as a featured pushed act in AEW, as he should be.
Yeah, the only person I feel that has a chance besides Keith Lee is Wardlow, based on the story. The story that they laid out last night on Dynamite, being that MJF said that if he wins the ladder match, he beats the TNT champion, he can keep the title. It would be MJF that let that all play out, let Wardlow win the title, and then still ask him for the championship. It would totally be MJF, and depending on the result of Revolution, that's a nice story for him to get into after what's been a great storyline with CM Punk. So I think it's a toss-up between Keith Lee and Wardlow, very much so. But yeah, I do agree. They got to kind of capitalize on Keith Lee while he's hot. He's still hot after his debut in AEW coming over. And like a lot of people like to say, he hasn't really been used, but he has been. He's been on the show every week since then. He had the vignette promo. He had the promo exchange with Ricky Starks last week, and then he had the promo exchange with Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs this week. But I definitely agree that in a match, though, he needs to be put over big, and he needs to win this match. And honestly, I would have him then beat Sammy or whoever is the TNT champion after that to take those titles as well.
Yeah, agreed. I love Sammy as a wrestler, but and it's tough competition, but he's not been the best TNT champion. Sometimes you forget he's got the belt. As proven by there not being a title match on the pay-per-view, but it being on Rampage this week. It's all a bit odd. Yeah, I'd put it on to Keith Lee. Bring back Miro or something. Let's have those two big lads go back and forth. That'd be exciting. But no, you raise a good point about Wardlow, because the one thing I would say about the Wardlow storyline is clearly we're going to get a big story point on that on this pay-per-view, because they wouldn't have so heavy-handed had, you know, that segment on Dynamite when really we should have been focusing on MJF and Punk, to then do a second angle with Wardlow and the backstage pre-tape with Wardlow and MJF. That tells me that's coming to a head soon. So yeah, that could well play in. So he's a good wild card.
Honestly, more than their go home angle, that made me question my decision on who's going to win CM Punk and MJF more than their entire go home angle, which was superb, and we will talk about that. John Elite is going for Keith Lee in this one. Jennifer getting offended. Hey, back off, Christian. He is still better than most that roster. Love him. I love Christian too, Jennifer. I'm a peep. I am one of the peeps. Don't get me wrong. I've been a peep since 2004, 2005. I've been riding in these streets for Christian, taking bullets for years. I've been telling people he's better than Edge in his overdramatic self, looking like Doc Brown now. Like Christian is really good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just going by how Tony Khan and AEW has treated him. Jennifer says, just playing, guys. But I do love Christian. I'm with you. I'm out there in these streets with you, Jen. We also got Todd, who says this will be the night the Wardlow turns his back on MJF. We have to see. We will get into that as well. But speaking of, you brought up Sammy Guevara, so let's talk about his match that he got on the pay-per-view here, as he'll be teaming with Darby Allin and Sting to verse Matt Hardy, Andrade El Idolo, Isaiah Cassidy, AHFO in the first ever AEW Tornado Trios match. This one has kind of gotten all together. It started off with Andrade feuding with Darby Allin, wanting to buy the young man because Andrade has no concept of friendship and family and anything like that. Darby, of course, and Sting denied him that. So he instead bought AHFO and aligned with Matt Hardy. Ever since then, they've been making life hell for the TNT Championship champion Sammy Guevara, who Andrade wants his title, as well as Darby and Sting. Sammy beat Andrade for the TNT Championship. Andrade cost Darby his shot at the TNT title. We already brought up the three-way on Rampage with Darby, Sammy, and Andrade. But this one, the Tornado Trios match, who wins, Benno?
Can I just ask why first? Why is this match happening? I don't understand.
Recapping everything that's went down very much confused me, because I was really, when this whole thing started, I was really like, man, Andrade and Darby is going to be a great match at the pay-per-view. Yeah. I thought they would have kept it simple and just gave us that match, but nope.
Yeah. Like, so Rampage has got the three-way and we've got the six-man on the pay-per-view. I'm not against having six-mans on pay-per-views. I think you can do that as like an early match on the card. I think that's good. It's just weird how we've got here. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Tony Khan's loving with Matt Hardy as well. I feel like that bloke's on AEW TV more than Hangman Page, more than anybody. Like,
well,
4 or 5 segments of show.
He's
like
building to the Hardy Boys reunion. Like it's all this like added TV time for Matt Hardy started when Jeff got fired, when Jeff got released. If you've noticed, look at the week Jeff got released. That's when this whole focus and more of TV time for Matt Hardy started again.
I think. For some reason, we talked about the toy box before, and Christy might be at the bottom. Matt Hardy just seems to be at the top, and whatever excuse Tony gets him out and plays with him, like, yeah. I mean, I get it. Jeff Hardy comes in. For me, that takes. I'm just not a fan of the big money Matt character. I'm not a fan of it being all over TV. I don't think he works with Isaiah Cassidy. I just don't think it's a good fit. The entire stable, really. But you put the Hardys together, that's money. Let's do that. That's a much better use of Matt Hardy going forward. So my guess would be this is the big payoff, to the Andrade stuff, like that Andrade is going to take over that stable, or there's going to be some kind of implosion leading to Jeff coming in. I suppose that's our explanation for why this match is taking place. But yeah, with that said, I would like to see Darby, Sammy, and Sting go over in, again, quite a decisive fashion. I don't think this should stick around too long. I imagine there'll be a big angle after the match. And yeah, let's get Jeff in sooner rather than later, because yeah, I'd much rather watch those Hardy Boy tags than Matt wandering around in his bad fitting suit.
Absolutely. Like, Matt hasn't really had a match worth a damn where you want to see a Matt Hardy match. But Matt and Jeff, Hey, they always know how to work around even their, limitations that they have now. They're not the same Hardys from 20 years ago. It's just going to be fun to see them in the ring with the Young Bucks again, or with the Lucha Bros for the first time, Santana and Ortiz for the first time. There's so many different tag teams, and we kind of saw that in the Casino Tag Team Royale, how many tag teams are really over in AEW, and now throwing in the Hardys, the most money drawing or successful tag team in history. This is like an all-timer tag team division with the addition of the Hardys. So I do agree. And I also agree Sting, Darby, and Sammy are going to get the victory here to kind of put a stamp and close this book and this rivalry that really got confusing. The only way I can see this kind of trailing off after the pay-per-view is if we do eventually get that Andrade versus Darby match, which I am looking forward to that match more than this.
Yeah, I'd enjoy that. And I think that's true as well. You want to save some big matches for TV. So presumably that'll be a Dynamite, a Rampage main event as the straight singles. So yeah, we got that to look forward to as well.
Absolutely. And this one should be very interesting. A singles match, a grudge match, as it's going to be Eddie Kingston versus Chris Jericho. Eddie Kingston basically was a wedge between Chris Jericho and Santana and Ortiz. Kingston's history with Santana and Ortiz from growing up in the New York Indies and being a mentor to them, while Chris Jericho has been a mentor to Santana and Ortiz with the Inner Circle. And then it really got personal between these two men, with Kingston bringing up how Chris Jericho is a sports entertainer and he's a fighter and he just wants to fight. Chris Jericho saying that Eddie can't win the big one and he has achievophobia, which Eddie Kingston firmly responded with, I got a GED, and he didn't know what that meant. And I appreciate that, being that he's from Yonkers. Represent. But yes, it's going to be Kingston versus Jericho. Benno, I know you're a Kingston fan, but does Kingston finally win the big one in AEW here?
I really, really hope so. Like, I think you can only tell that story of Eddie Kingston, he's lazy or he can't win the big one, or, like he was on the indies for a reason for all these years. Like, there were parts of that Jericho Kingston promo segment where it just felt like Jericho had watched the Punk Kingston promo segments and just copied his homework. And it was like a lot of it's like a lot of repeated stuff. Kingston was great in the segment, but, with Jericho going heel, you can get away with him, seeming a little bit, I don't know, maybe not quite on the same level as Kingston. Maybe, it almost felt like a point in that promo battle. They were in two different feuds. Like Jericho was trying to like talk about how a big deal it was for Kingston to face Jericho, and Kingston was just like, dude, I'm just going to punch you in the mouth. Like that evil. Kingston was more trying to build it as like just a fight. I think that is what we'll get. Drunken brawler Chris Jericho is probably the highlight of his New Japan run. Obviously, he's much slimmed down now, so I don't know if he's knocked the drink on the head, but I think he's still got a good brawl in him. And I think this will be a good match. I think it genuinely will. And I think Jericho has, through his career, what you can say for him, he's been a selfless main eventer. There have been parts where, maybe he's taking up too much TV time in AEW, or maybe there's some truth in the fact that the rest of the Inner Circle kind of got forgotten about because they were always, both in storyline and in reality, just involved in whatever Chris Jericho was doing. But through his career, he's never had a problem with putting people over. He's been quite a selfless main eventer. Eddie Kingston needs a pay-per-view win. I really hope that's what we're getting. I think Jericho's going full heel going forward, so maybe you get a beat down after the match or something. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my bias speaking, but I just need to see Eddie Kingston win one of these matches at some point, because you can only tell that story so many times.
Yeah. And, despite Jericho saying he's the big one, there is other big wins for Kingston to get. It's for championship in AEW, whether it be the tag team titles, the TNT title, even the AEW World Championship. But he does need that big win. Like, he's never won on a pay-per-view in AEW. He lost at All Out in the Battle Royale in 2020. He lost against Moxley at Full Gear 2020. He lost against the Young Bucks with Moxley at Double or Nothing. Lost against Miro at All Out. Lost against Punk at Full Gear. He needs this win. Jericho doesn't need this win. And you don't really need to continue. You don't need multiple matches between these guys. You just need Kingston to get this victory here. And I think Santana and Ortiz may play a role here based on what we saw last night with them giving the fist bump to Jericho. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but I do think Kingston's going to win.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's odd. That segment on Dynamite was a bit weird. Kind of like a fist bump and a, almost like they were drawing a line under it. I think that's more how I interpreted it, that maybe they're going to stay out of this thing. And it is just going to be, Jericho versus Kingston, rather than us getting shenanigans. But yeah, we'll see. It's a bit odd. Like I say, the Jericho's definitely leaned more into the heel stuff. So, I think we'll get some kind of development on that side and some more pushing towards him and being a heel. But yeah, I've got to be honest, this is the match I'm most invested in the result in as a lifelong Eddie Kingston guy like you. Yeah, I want to see him win the big one. If not now, when?
Yes, seriously, when? It needs to be on Sunday. But what might be the match of the night, and that's saying a lot based on this card, might be this one, as it's going to be for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus Jurassic Express defending against Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, reDRagon, versus the winner of the Casino Tag Team Royale, the team we expected, the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks have had the match of the night at the past two Revolutions, last year against Jericho and MJF. The year before that, the classic 6-star matchup against Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus have been having a good reign here, while reDRagon are making their first appearance on an AEW pay-per-view. So really, this is the first match that we're talking about here that can go any way. Benno, who you think walks out with the AEW World Tag Team titles?
Yeah, I'm with you. Could go any direction. I think you could make an argument for really the tag division right now is built around this Young Bucks reDRagon feud. Like those two battle royals, it was just all about getting those two teams over, wasn't it? Really, at the end of the day, like we're putting a lot of work in to get to this match, a lot of backstage segments, building it up. Do you want to put the title in that feud, or does it need it? I suppose is the other question, because they were working together a little bit on Dynamite, so you would expect that that'll blow up within this match. I think Tony Khan's just a big fan of those undercard junior tags from New Japan. He loves putting, it's like when he was saving that Roppongi Vice match a couple of weeks ago. Like you can tell he loves these that type of match and that style of match. And those matches were always great. Maybe the crowd wasn't so into them in Japan, but the crowd's going to be going crazy for this one. To see this combo of the three teams. But it's the hardest call on the show, definitely. I personally think Jurassic Express keep the belts and we carry on and we build to a reDRagon Young Bucks match without the belt. They don't need it. But if that happens, I would like to see a bit more focus on Jurassic Express, because they, despite being the champions, feel a little bit like just the odd one out in this match, like the third team. They're not really part of the storyline. They're just there to make up the numbers. And as champions, I think maybe they should be a little bit more of a focus going forward if they're keeping the belts.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to also agree. I'm going for Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, because if they lost the titles, this would be very damning for them. And I felt like the title win was like it was a major elevation for Jungle Boy. So it would be going backwards to have this build up where they're kind of the third team in this whole equation and then have them lose. I think that would be very damaging to Jungle Boy and the team overall. So I do think Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus are going to win here, but I think reDRagon is going to be the team to dethrone them. And I think that the match with reDRagon and the Young Bucks is going to happen on a pay-per-view for the AEW World Tag Team titles, and they won't do a rematch just like they did with FTR.
One and done.
One and done. One and done. All you can get, and then you can get battle royals where they do face-offs and everybody goes crazy because they never got the rematch. But another match I feel like is kind of unpredictable as well, can go either way, is another grudge match, as it's going to be the former AEW World Champion Jon Moxley going one-on-one with Bryan Danielson. For weeks, Danielson was backstage watching Moxley in his comeback matches since he's returned since inpatient rehab, been on a roll, been undefeated since then. Danielson was watching him. People thought it was for a fight, but it was for a partnership that he proposed to share their level of violence with the rest of the roster, bringing up Lee Moriarty, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta. We've seen Danielson go in and have great clinics, technical wrestling clinics with Moriarty and Garcia since then. But Moxley said, if you want to stand side by side with me, you have to bleed with me first. So Danielson has accepted the challenge. We have this match. And it could go either way. Moxley has brought up that he has never defeated Bryan Danielson ever in his career. So this is something that's eluded him, the big win, while Danielson wants to beat Moxley into submission, basically, to joining his whole vision of this stable of violence. So who do you think wins, Moxley or Danielson?
Yeah, another hard one to call, this one. Like, I have really enjoyed the build to this one. I don't think every match on your pay-per-view needs to be a crazy, these two guys hate each other and, you know, we're waiting for the pay-per-view. This has been more of a slow burn story to get us there. It's almost like they wanted to book Danielson versus Moxley in the pay-per-view, and then they've gone backwards and thought, well, how can we tell a story that gets us there? And it's a very different kind of story where, like you say, it's almost playing into the Danielson thing about him wanting to start that stable and, you know, prove, you know, Moxley wanting Danielson to prove himself, and then they're just going to go out there as two big stars and probably just beat each other up. I think that's what we can expect here as a match, and I love that. It adds a lot of weight to the card as well. You know, two big stars in a you know, upper card match like this. It's great booking all around. I really love it. And where it goes next, it's another one where I'm quite excited. You know, where we go. Does the stable come to fruition? You know, does Danielson betray Moxley? How do we actually get there? It could go anyway. I think I would probably expect Moxley to go over, given the story they've told so far. Maybe the shenanigans after the match where Danielson snaps and he doesn't actually want to team with Moxley anymore. He wants to beat him up, and then we get a second, more of a grudge match type on a future pay-per-view. Maybe that, but you know, I don't know what your thoughts are. It could go 3 or 4 different ways. I think that's what makes this match really interesting and different to the build to everything else on the card.
When Danielson first proposed the partnership, I literally said on an episode of AE Ramble on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, I said to my friend Jimmy, I was like, give me the match and then they become partners. So we're one step there. We got the match at Revolution. And I think regardless of the outcome, we should get a tag team in some ways, because I do know that they probably want to get around to Moxley and Hangman. And I feel you could still do that if they're in a partnership. But, you know, you still want to have Danielson look strong. So that's why the result is kind of up in the air. And Danielson winning can set up the partnership very nicely. But I think after that promo by Moxley, where he was fired up, talking about, you know, beating the guy he's never beaten in his career, I think Moxley beats Danielson on Sunday, but in beating him, gets a new level of respect for someone that he already has a great deal of respect for, and then we start the partnership post-Revolution.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with any direction this one goes. It's exciting, isn't it? It's like, it's really, really interesting stuff. The stable would be awesome. More feud would be awesome. Just more of these two interacting would be awesome. And you raise a good point. You know, the one thing I would say with this is, obviously, before Moxley went off, it looked like they were about to turn him heel, you know, before he took that time out. So how do we get back in the booking to where maybe they were headed? Tony Khan had a long-term plan for where we were going with both of those guys. And I think Moxley being out is the reason Bryan turned. I think Bryan was maybe going to be a temporary heel against Hangman, but he stayed heel since. So that's a bit weird as well. Like, how do we get back on the path that they wanted in the first place? Like,
I think Bryan enjoys being heel too much, though. Not to interrupt you, but yeah, I think he's having too much fun.
It's ROH 2006, 2007, Bryan, isn't it, that we're getting here? Like, yeah, maybe you could do that. Go to the newfangled ROH and just beat some lads up there. Send the stable down. I think that'd be a fun direction.
Ah, man, I can't wait for ROH One Night Stand. Man, that's gonna be
Morishima back.
Morishima, absolutely. Morishima show up. Go Shiozaki. Bring them all in. We got D-Star who says, do you think they may do a swerve and do a Matt versus Jeff angle rather than the tag team that everyone is expecting? That would, I would think that that's not a good move at all. You can't do a swerve.
It never works.
It never really works. It's only worked once, and they literally had to kind of reinvent wrestling to do it with the final deletion. That was the only time Matt versus Jeff worked, and it had to be in a cinematic match that kind of has started all cinematic matches throughout wrestling, really, in a new way. So I wouldn't do that if I was AEW. And Jennifer, Your wishes are command. I'll talk about that now if you like, because it's the match that everyone is looking forward to. CM Punk will go one-on-one with MJF in a dog collar match. In my eyes, and in a lot of people's eyes, this has been one of the greatest feuds in AEW history. From the moment these two men met and CM Punk refused to shake MJF's hand, they've been on this collision course. The promo exchange in Chicago on Thanksgiving, the big six-man tag in Greensboro on the Holiday Bash with MJF and FTR versus the face-painted CM Punk, Sting, and Darby Allin. CM Punk costing MJF his first win of 2022. The match with Wardlow and all of that drama. The match in Chicago where MJF beat CM Punk twice in his hometown. Then you had the FTR match with CM Punk and Moxley, that great tag team match. This dog collar promo with the picture. The MJF promo that I have put on the level of Austin 316 and Dusty Rhodes Hard Times. It was that good, that much of an origin story of a villain. Superb. And then last night, one of the best go home angles with a great promo by CM Punk. It was really a monologue of a good guy. Like, you got the villain origin story 1 week, and then you had the monologue of the good guy who was a bad guy that transformed himself and didn't want the same for his young protege. And then the young protege is so angry, doesn't go back on anything he said last week. He was just so angry with what has transpired that he beats him down to a bloody pulp. This has been just magnificent. How does it end on Sunday? Dog collar match, Benno.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it has. It's been unbelievable. Like, I was maybe more on the fence with the MJF promo last week. It was just a bit, to me, I was like, well, this is a little bit out of character. You know, it took you on that ride of like, oh, are they going too far with, you know, it was a great villain origin story, like you say. Are we going too far with justifying MJF's motives? You know, we lean in too much into that. Is Punk going to look a bit silly? And my caveat was, let's see what happens next week. And what we got next week, last night, was one of the greatest angles in AEW history. And it was exactly what it needed to be. You know, yes, there's truth to what MJF said, but he's still, you know, that scummy heel. He's going to use it to take his opportunity to beat up CM Punk. I mean, should have expected it when they both came out in white, but, you know, that kind of bloody go-home angle like that where, you know, MJF is just absolutely beating the hell out of CM Punk, and, you know, the blood, which was great, and, you know, the callbacks as well. You know, again, it's a retro ROH love-in today, but, you know, there were a couple of lines in that MJF promo where he literally took, you know, verbatim from what Punk said in the original ROH Summer of Punk about, you know, being a snake and about, you know, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled, all the that stuff, down to, you know, hanging him off the ropes, you know, dog collar style, which Punk did with both Jimmy Raven in the past. It's just been an absolute delight. I've loved all the callbacks in this feud, and like that was the definition of a money angle. Like, it was just take my money now, no matter what else is on this pay-per-view. I want to see these two men fight. I want to see CM Punk beat MJF, and that seems like the logistical end to the story. But again, with MJF, I feel like he should win some of these big ones, you know, at the end of the feuds. I know as a heel, he's the antagonist, and he's there to then eventually be vanquished at the end. But I think you could maybe justify it. I think you could justify putting him over. Now, there might be shenanigans with Wardlow that make it, you know, maybe that's how you justify Punk going over and an MJF losing. But I wouldn't be against MJF winning this one. I know it goes against kind of traditional wrestling storytelling, but part of me kind of wants that as like that bitter end of this story, and like a great way of putting MJF over big and maybe moving him into the title division going forward. I don't know where you are on that.
I mean, I want MJF to be the challenger for whoever is the AEW World Champion at Double or Nothing, because that would be 3 years since he first saw the AEW World Championship in that whole angle that they did with Bret Hart introducing the title, and the other man that was involved in that angle is going to be in the main event. So it would be very poetic justice if they're in the main event of Double or Nothing 3 years later. But like just how that angle went down, and I do agree with you, it's one of the best angles that AEW has done. it just makes me believe we're getting the baby face, overcoming the odds and being triumphant
makes the most sense.
on Sunday. Like, if this was a different way, I can see it going. This is another difficult match that can go any way. Like, MJF winning wouldn't really surprise me at all. But just based on how the angle went down, the fact that they got about 2.5 months before we get to Double or Nothing, where they can heat up MJF once again.
True.
I'm going to say that CM Punk gets the victory here. But yeah, like I said, depending on how this match goes, this is probably the greatest AEW feud of all time. The only one I have above it is Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. That's it.
Wow, that's high praise. I mean, yeah, I think you can justify it in that, Punk, already lost to MJF with the Wardlow shenanigans and the incredible Dynamite match. So, you can do the reverse. I think the other argument as well on your side maybe is that Punk did look a little bit silly on Dynamite, accepting the hug of MJF and being that naive babyface, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, Punk can carry it and it worked for the segment. But maybe the natural payoff to that and the natural story end is, Punk is victorious in the end. You know what I mean? He's the valiant babyface, and he goes over big. And like I say, the part of me that maybe does see where you're coming from, and that maybe, you could see something with Wardlow that justifies it. MJF can talk about if it wasn't for Wardlow, he'd have, vanquished CM Punk or whatever. So you can carry it, but yeah, it's interesting and definitely another one that can go either way.
Before the angle, I thought the finish would have been CM Punk as MJF dead to rights, bleeding. He's about to do something with a chair or the chain, and MJF just pulls out the pitcher and puts it in front of him. Makes CM Punk pause. Low blow, hits him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. That's how he wins.
But now he pulls that pitcher out and Punk doesn't back down. He hits him with a chair. Yes. That'd be so great.
Yes, they gotta bring the pitcher because this is the best use of a prop in a feud that I've seen, and very much echoing what you said. How they've used history and the past so well from the very beginning of this storyline, just things people have said in the past, like comparing MJF to Miz, or Punk's whole thing with feeling inferior to John Cena and Triple H were brought up in that first promo. Then last night with that promo with Punk bringing up the ashes of Paul Bearer on The Undertaker, or pouring liquor down Raven's throat, or forcing Jeff Hardy out of WWE. They just use the past and history so well to create something that's so new, fresh, but so fantastic in its own way. I love it.
Yeah, awesome.
2 more matches to give predictions for, Benno, here. Another one for the AEW World Women's Championship is going to be Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defending against her arch rival Thunder Rosa. Last year, around this time, actually, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker put on one of the greatest Dynamite matches of all time, their Lights Out match, where Thunder Rosa got the victory. However, non-sanctioned match, it didn't count against the record, so Britt Baker is 1-0 against Thunder Rosa up until Dynamite last night, where Thunder Rosa got the big win in a tag team match over Britt Baker. So Wrestling 101 says the challenger beat the champion on the go-home show. So the champion's winning on the pay-per-view, but everything we saw up until last night told us that this is Thunder Rosa's time. What do they do? Do we have a new champion, or do you continue Baker's reign, Benno?
It's another if not now when question, isn't it? Because I suppose maybe the answer is you can do Britt and, like you say, Britt and Jade at some point, and maybe that's the when, because the company just loves Britt Baker, and you understand why. She's clearly by a country mile the most over female wrestler in the company. She's fantastic character, carries the belt well. Hasn't really had the best feuds is the one knock on her, and even match wise outside of Thunder Rosa, I think the water level hasn't been particularly high for Britt Baker's title run. But the solution to that is put her back in with Thunder Rosa, and that's what they've done. And maybe we're not going to get levels like we got with the match last year with the no DQ step and how great and memorable that match was. But I'd expect something of similar quality. And yeah, it would make sense for the valiant babyface to maybe go over here and to finally take the belt off Britt. I say babyface like Britt isn't basically a face herself at this point. She is probably the most cheered female wrestler as well as being the most popular. So yeah, there is that. But there's just something about the way they book Britt, it's going to take something big for her to lose this title. And I just don't see them doing it. I just think she's going to be holding this belt for, another 6 months to come. They just love Britt Baker, don't they, in AEW? Like, they really do. And, that is kind of, the women's division has been built around her for these last couple of years. And I think it's going to continue to be. So that's what gives me doubt on that.
Yeah, and you have to also think, like I said, Jade Cargill versus the women's champion is the big match that they seem to be building to, and they haven't done Jade Cargill versus Britt Baker yet. They've done Jade Cargill versus Thunder Rosa, but they haven't done that match, and you have to think it's for a reason, and probably the reason is for that big first-time women's main event, because Britt Baker's been in every first-time women's main event, and Jade Cargill is the woman star that they're building, so it makes sense for those two to be in it. I just feel it is time. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to crown Thunder Rosa. I said it before. The True Hill Heat social media account will be a Thunder Rosa stan account on Sunday. We need Thunder Rosa to win the AEW Women's World Championship. Baker's reign has been good. I think she has been delivering, especially on like pay-per-view. Her match with Hikaru Shida was really good at Double or Nothing. Her match with Statlander was great at All Out. Her match with Conti was probably solid at best. But that's still a good catalog for your pay-per-view matches overall. And our matches on TV have been pretty good as well. The Red Velvet match, I felt like overachieved in Pittsburgh. That was a really good match as well. So I felt like she's had a good one, but it has kind of petered off. And she does have a story already ready-made for her after she loses the title, with her whole entourage kind of splitting at the seams, with her and Jamie Hayter kind of having dissension there. So I could see her having that follow-up with her there. So I think Thunder Rosa, it's time.
I would love to see it because I love Thunder Rosa, and like she was after that match last year, she kind of got forgotten about, didn't she? I know she wasn't a full-time AEW talent, I think, at the time of the match, but all we all remember really was Britt Baker's bloodied face, and didn't remember, the other woman in the match, the one who went over. Everyone kind of forgot about Thunder Rosa, and yeah, she's so good. Like if she was champion going forward, like maybe not as high on Britt matches as you, but I think we both agree, Thunder Rosa as champion doing big title defenses on shows going forward. Imagine how good that would be, and they do need to pull the trigger on having more stars in that women's division. I think they, Britt's up here, Jade's here, and then everyone else is kind of a level, aren't they? So you do want to make another proper star in that division. So if you're serious about that, this could be the time for Thunder Rosa.
It could be. So that's why I'm going with her. Also because I'm biased, ladies and gentlemen. But we got the main event of the evening. As Tony Khan announced it, it will be Hangman Adam Page defending the AEW World Championship against the number one contender, Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole has stepped up to Hangman Page and brought up their past. Once again, the past in history being used in the AEW feud. It's something they do very well. And their history as kind of Bullet Club mates. And Page being the lower Adam to Adam Cole for a lot of their careers until Adam Cole came to AEW, where Hangman Page is the AEW World Champion. And Adam Cole is still trying to achieve that goal. Who do you think walks out with the gold, Page or Cole? Who's the better Adam?
Who's the better Adam's a different question. I don't know. I'm on the.
Who's the better Adam on Sunday?
Oh, okay. On Sunday, I think it's going to be Hangman Page. And it's funny because I was never an Adam Cole guy, in his ROH run or even really in his NXT run, but I've loved him in AEW. He's come across as such a star and he carries himself so well. I hated him losing to Orange Cassidy. I just like the timing of that was awful. Like I know you've got to give Orange Cassidy some wins as he does draw it in TV ratings, but he'd lost to Matt Hardy in their feud ended like a month and a half before. Did he really have to lose that one and win that one? It makes no sense, but I'm trying to forget about it. I'm trying to put it in the rear view because the build to this has been very good. Hangman Page has been maybe the forgotten man a little bit on TV since he won the title. I do think, obviously he's had great matches, but he's felt a little bit mid. He's felt a little bit like, not the most important thing on the show. And I feel like the world champion should be the most important thing on your show. But these last couple of weeks, he's been booked really strong. They were the main events, angle on Dynamite last night and the week before. He looked really good, just running through, Cole and O'Reilly and Fish. So that was a really good look for him as well. if you're gonna keep the belt on Hangman Page long term, which feels like they are, then I think he needs wins. He needs big wins like this, and he needs big performances. And you can rely on Hangman for that sneakily. Like he's had 3 maybe of the top 5 AEW matches ever, and I'd expect this to be a banger. I'd expect this to go on last, and yeah, I think I want to see him get a strong win, and maybe be featured a little bit more on TV as like the the guy in the opening segments or the guy in the main event segments going forward, because he's great, and I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, Hangman Page has knocked everything he's been given out of the park. Matches, promos. The promo last week was really good. I've been talking about his babyface promo before Full Gear, the Cowboy S-word promo. That's one of the best babyface promos in AEW history. So he's been delivering character-wise, promo-wise, in the ring, some of these great matches. Even with Lance Archer, no one believed he could win. He still pulled out a great match in that good Texas Death Match. So, yeah. Take care. I think that it is time. Hangman Page gets the main event spot, gets the win. Adam Cole, this is a real test for him because he's in the main event scene in a new promotion. He has to deliver in this one. And with this card, it's going to be very tough to have the best match on the card, but they need to put in an effort to achieve that on the show. But I agree. Hangman Page gets the victory here. And that is the entire AEW Revolution 2022 card, the buy-in and the main card. And this is the card from AEW Revolution 2020, Benno. Moxley, Jericho, you had MJF, Cody, you had the Bucks, Hangman, and Kenny Omega, Nyla Rose, Chris Statlander, Darby, Sammy, Pac, and Orange Cassidy, Dustin Rhodes, and Jake Hager. People tend to forget that one. 2021, they had an even bigger card. You had the exploding barbed wire death match, Young Bucks versus MJF and Chris Jericho, Sting's first match, the street fight with Team Taz, the Revolution ladder match. Do you think this is the best Revolution card in comparison to those two?
I think it's stronger than last year. I think the year before, it's hard to beat, isn't it? When you got one of the best probably the best match in AEW history, on that first card. But I think what you can say, just looking at those cards there, the difference is maybe the star power. The level is higher, isn't it? There's more people at that top end. Once the AEW roster was already great, and I think we're going to miss Cody going forward. It's almost sad to see him in those images. Although maybe he'll come back, he'll be the ROH booker or champion or something.
Hey, he was supposed to get that before he signed with AEW, so
maybe that's the swerve. Maybe that's what's coming. But yeah, you look at you add to those existing cards. Once you throw in, Danielson, Punk, Cole. Obviously Kingston was on the show last year, but the likes of him, being in the card, it's just almost like a different company, isn't it? It's unbelievable. And I think this card's got a little bit more depth, whereas I think last year it was okay. It turned out to be a better show on the night than maybe the card looked, although the Moxley Kingston stuff was still very disappointing. And the year before, again, you can't beat that big main event, that big match. But I think there's potential here for this to be the best of the lot.
Yeah, I think this is one of their best cards, probably just below Full Gear as far as top to bottom cards for AEW. So it's going to be a great show. And you can hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified, because you're going to see the Revolution review with this man here. He's going to be on the Revolution review. Kevin Kellum, how you doing?
I'm doing good here, buddy. Great review. Great to have you on, Benno. Love Grapple. It'll be on my phone for WrestleMania week. I got to clear out some apps and get Grapple back on my phone. I like Grapple. I want Grapple to become the I don't know if you guys have said it. I want Grapple to be like the Rotten Tomatoes of wrestling. I wish everyone talks about these Meltzer 5-star ratings. I think a Grapple rating, an aggregate rating that everyone gets to do at the same time, that you could embed, would be awesome. So go Grapple. I'm a fan of it.
That's what we're going for, Why listen to the views of one man when you can get the views of many? Yeah, if you hate Dave Meltzer.
But Brian, sorry, that's my bad Dave Meltzer impression. And Meltzer's awesome. I love issue. I love Dave. I have no issue with.
Me and Benno just said we were listening to Meltzer, so yeah, they know.
I know. I do too.
This is all from a good.
I have no issue with Dave Meltzer at all. I just have wrestling buddies, and whenever we bring up a Meltzer story, we go, Brian. We just do the mumbly. I don't know why. It's just something me and my friends enjoy. I do have some breaking news here. I don't know if you guys were watching this. I know this is an AEW show. I don't want to be the guy who brings in the WWE news. I know you say I'm what? What do you call me, Sid? You call me this all the time.
You're a shill. You're a shill.
I'm a shill. I'm a shill for WWE.
You're wearing Vince's name tag on your. I see it on your shirt.
I'm wearing New Japan right now. Come on.
Yeah. What's underneath the hoodie?
Just a gray sweatshirt, bro. No brand. No brand.
He got the laser print. That was actually a Performance Center shirt that he got
it's
laser
backwards.
print.
It says WWE Performance, and I spun around. I wore it back.
These Mark Jano's SB3, they're everywhere. They love that PT bus.
On a slightly serious note, I don't mean to end on this. This news broke within the last hour. Vince McMahon is going to be on the Pat McAfee show today, and everyone thinks there's something there. But WWE did something else that's a little bit more serious, and it parlays into international politics right now with the unfortunate situation and the unjust war and invasion of Ukraine. WWE's pulled the WWE Network from Russia, and this was announced about 20 minutes ago. They have also terminated their broadcast contract with Match, which is one of their biggest contracts in Eastern Europe and Asia. This will also remove WWE Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, along with their on-demand library and WrestleMania 38 from Russia, effective immediately. They confirmed this in a press release that was sent out to several different outlets in the last 20 minutes. So WWE joining different brands like Warner Brothers, Disney, and many, many retail brands that are pulling their products from Russia, and the international response to the invasion of Ukraine. So that is a developing story from WWE. I assume Vince McMahon will have more to say about that today on Pat McAfee. So,
and Kev will have more to say about that on today's top story. But I appreciate Kev. Kev is like an anchor man. He's a reporter, breaking news on the show.
I need that little hat with the press little. This is clipping it. Yeah. That'll get me into WrestleMania press day. Well, I'm wearing. Look at me. I'm wearing my hat with this press on it.
Give him a final plug for top story and the AEW Revolution 2022 review. Kat.
If you love AEW and you're watching us here on Facebook, you're like, I don't want to hear that WWE stuff. I just want All Elite Wrestling. We have the Sports Key Wrestling All Elite page. Just search Sports Key to All Elite, and you can just do that in your Facebook feed as well. We stream on there. We will stream the post show on there. We are on our main page as well. I know a lot of people watch us on Facebook. We appreciate that. But also subscribe to our YouTube channel now, which is really, really sweet. We survived being hacked by crypto weirdos, so that was really sweet. And we're back on air. Go check that out. And you can also get all these shows in audio form on our podcast feed. Thank you for putting us on the charts in multiple countries. So we appreciate that. And we will be live on Sunday night right after AEW Revolution. So you're watching the show, just enjoy it with us right afterwards and get your comments on screen for free. You want to throw us a super chat? Thank you so much. We appreciate it, but we'll still put your stuff up on screen. Thank you guys so much. And Benno, thanks for coming on, bud.
Thank you, Kev.
Bye. See you on the top story, 5:30 Central every weekday. See ya.
Came on, break some news, man. That's how you do it. But that's major news for sure. But we got to wrap things up on this pay-per-view preview, AEW Revolution. We gave our predictions. We told you what we thought about the card. Benno, any final thoughts? And where can all these great people watch your content, Grapple app podcast, as well as Post Wrestling? Let them know.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Final thoughts. Just excited for the pay-per-view. Think it's going to be a great time on Sunday night. So yeah, looking forward to watching that and tweeting along. And if you want to see my tweets, I'm at Benson Richard E on Twitter. And yeah, as far as Grapple goes, we're going to be doing our big we do our news and preview show normally on our Patreon page, but it's going to be free for all tonight on the Grapple YouTube channel. So just search Grapple Noe on YouTube, and you get some more Revolution thoughts, Dynamite review, and the rest of the news today, including that breaking news we just mentioned there. But yeah, other than that, download the Grapple app. Appreciate that plug. If you want to throw your star ratings in, do that. But yeah, you can find Grapple on my regular podcasts wherever podcasts are sold. Just Grapple Noe, search her anywhere and you'll find us.
Absolutely. This man knows his professional wrestling, knows him some Ring of Honor as well, as you saw in the beginning of this show. So definitely go over and support him. Follow him on the Twitter machine. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at True Heel SP3. I'll be going live in less than an hour over on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel with Jimmy Macaram to review last night's AEW Dynamite. We'll be talking about Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor, which, you know, if you watch True Heel Heat, Jimmy Macaram hates Tony Khan. So him being on the show, I I'm sure we're going to get a rant. So join us live, hit the bell, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, True Hill Heat, AE Ramble number 32 with myself and Jimmy Macaram. And I'll be back here on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel tomorrow following SmackDown and Rampage with Dutch Mantel and Rick Ucchino. And like I said, check out the AEW Revolution post show on Sunday after the show. Kev will be here, Jose, the whole crew. Like this video, share this with your friends, subscribe if you are new to the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel. We want to thank Benno so much for joining me. It won't be the last time he probably joins me for an AEW pay-per-view because this is like our tradition now. We just changed it to a different channel. But it is me, your True Hill Phenom, SP3. This has been the AEW Revolution 2022 preview and predictions. We are signing off until next time.